Aloha, everyone. Welcome. I'm Abaya, and I'm really overjoyed to practice with you today. Your spine is made up of 25 bones if you include your sacrum, and my hope is that today you'll get to know each and every one of those bones. So, without any further ado, we can begin. Turn to your right and make your way onto your back. In order to get to know your spine, it's very helpful to wake up your deep core. So we'll be doing our familiar deep core exercise. And so before we do any movement, let's just breathe and give yourself the opportunity to experience the weight of your body. Maybe feel the air around you. Here in Hawaii, we can hear the birds chirping. And then with each breath, imagine setting down your to-do list, setting down everything that's already happened today, all the things yet to happen. And give yourself the opportunity to bear witness to this moment. Imagine the breath flooding through the body, bringing nourishment physiologically, but also energetically. And give yourself the opportunity to notice how the body feels. Is it a relief to relax in this moment? Is it stressful? There's no need for any judgment. It's just about observing. And being in that observer space is extremely powerful and nourishing regardless of what it is that you observe. And as you watch yourself, notice if the breath can become smoother. And kind of like watching a wave crest. There's not quite a concrete beginning and end. It's just this flowing, perpetual experience. And start to feel the place at the end of the exhale, the bottom of the exhale where you've let all the air out. Maybe you can feel empty. Maybe the mind can quiet. And from this space of emptiness, I invite you to set an intention for your practice. And there's no right or wrong. It can be you. And if your mind doesn't know, maybe just wish to grow spiritually. And in a moment, we'll begin moving. But see if you can stay in this space of observation where you're not forcing or pushing, but just allowing yourself to be and to explore. So if your knees are not already bent, please bend them and place the soles of the feet to the earth, anywhere that's comfortable, but the feet should roughly be ahead of the sit bones. Anchor the big toes down. Make sure the knees feel supported. The knees can stack in line with the hip socket and the ankle. And then bring your hands to your hips. If you're following along with the musical playlist, you are welcome to hit play on the first track and just make sure it is set to loop. I'll tell you when to go to the next track. Okay, so as promised, to wake up the deep core, we first have to start from a place of neutral. So begin to find neutral by rocking the pelvis forward, low back arches, rock the pelvis back, low back flattens. And if you're feeling super energized, try going much slower. If you know you tend to overdo it, try moving a lot smaller. Smaller movements take a lot more focus and actually a lot more strength. So there's so much to benefit from in that. And Jamie, try walking your feet back towards your hips a little bit and do whatever feels best, but I think that might just help your pelvis find a good placement. And anyone else is welcome to move their feet in a little bit to support the knees. And so as the pelvis rocks forward and back, we're playing with the bottom of the spine, right? The sacrum. So start to notice how the movement of the sacrum ripples up the spine. And it's okay if you can't feel every single vertebra, just notice what you do feel, or imagine that you can feel each vertebra as the pelvis rocks forward and back. And let's all begin to slow that movement down and start to hover around center, noticing what wakes up when you start to find center. And a really interesting focal point here is when you truly find center, the bottom rib should be able to press down into the mat. You're not flattening the lumbar, but there's a lot of nice even length through the spine. And when the bottom rib presses, you'll probably feel a little extra brightening in your deep core. So as you take your next couple of rocks, try to feel that place where the bottom rib can start to connect with the mat. And then in a moment, we'll be playing with unweighting our feet and eventually lifting them. And I want you to see if you can keep your neutral pelvis and that bottom rib connected to the earth as you start to load the core and the pelvis a little bit more. So using the exhale without even lifting a foot, just imagine taking the weight out of the foot. It's actually harder than lifting it. And then inhale, you can let the foot release completely, and exhale, try to take the weight out of the other foot. Start to play with this foot by foot. And I find it helpful to think about lifting more through my heel so that my hip flexors don't turn on here. This should feel like a brightening. It shouldn't feel tight. It shouldn't feel intense. And take several of these microscopic marches to just begin waking up the deep core. Is anyone surprised by how much work it takes to take the weight out of your foot? So the foot keeps touching the earth. It doesn't actually lift. And once you've got the hang of that, then you can play with exhaling to Slow motion, lift one foot just about 45 degrees. So it's still pointed towards the earth, and then inhale, place it down, and exhale, lift the other foot. And now start to take these slightly bigger marches in place and try to approach them in the exact same way that you unweighted, with that really minimal effort that hopefully feels even all the way up the leg, all the way into the hip and the core. Slower is stronger. If there's a place where you feel like you can't quite control the movement, then you've found a really good place to explore. You're not going to hurt yourself, of course. The next time the right leg is lifted, pause there and use your next exhale to simply take the weight out of the left foot. Just notice that experience. And then keeping everything on as it is, you can play with lifting that left leg and stepping it down, and then lowering the right, and we'll do the other side. So slow motion, left leg lifts. Take the weight out of the right, and you can stay right there, or you can play with lifting the right leg. Can you do that with the bottom rib still contacting the earth? I do this a lot, and even so, when I try to keep my bottom rib down, I've got some quivering and shaking that's happening to as those muscles brighten. See if you can move 3 times as slow. If it feels easy, my guess is that you're not doing it right, because this is extremely challenging, even if you're strong. Beautiful. Take one more to each side. And then hug the knees into the chest. Feel how the back presses into the earth, and you can hold still here. You can gently let the knees rotate, massaging the low back a little bit. If you are massaging the low back, see if you can massage the bottom rib. So it does actually take a lot of core strength to be able to shift the weight to that point. I guess depends on your center of gravity. And then place the soles of the feet back to the earth. Try to set them up in front of the hips. Anchor the big toes. Reach the hands towards the feet. Slide the shoulder blades down just a little bit. And now that the deep core is woken up, we're going to start to explore each of our vertebrae. And so first, find that neutral pelvis that you have been becoming familiar with. And then start to press down into the big toes, reach the knees forward, and just take the weight out of the pelvis. When the pelvis hovers, feel the muscles in the core that are working, and then try to drape one vertebra at a time back down. We're going to repeat this many times, and each time you're going to take the weight out of the pelvis and then play with lifting just a little bit higher and see if you can feel a different vertebra. And then place the pelvis back down. And so moving at your own pace, let this exercise help you start to break up crystallization between each of your vertebra. Even if there's calcification, anything can be reversed eventually with your awareness and intention. And this movement creates blood flow. It will break up adhesions. So think of this like a massage. It's going to help your spine move better. And the key part of the massage is your awareness, letting your awareness rise up the spine, one vertebra at a time. And eventually, this will look like bridge pose. So it is absolutely fine for the hips to lift and for you to be working the vertebra between the shoulders. Unless that's too much, just stay low. There's so much to learn every step of the way, so be patient and curious with wherever you're at. If you find a sticky spot, a place where you can't feel or you can't articulate, pause there and just breathe. Imagine that the breath could articulate that spot. And this should feel gentle. It should feel supported. There shouldn't be anything tightening in your body. And so if you feel intensity anywhere, see if you can do it with less grip, less doership. More support. More ease. And the next time you're lifted, at whatever height you're at, doesn't matter, you don't have to lift higher, just pause there. And notice any sense of evenness through the body, as if every cell was supporting this movement. You don't feel it just in a single place. And if you're not experiencing that, see if you can come out a little bit and try again. And then slow motion on your own time, start to release down, trying to feel each of those vertebrae, being patient and compassionate. If you've never done this before, it might just feel like a void where you're like, I don't know which vertebra is which. That's great. We are exploring. We're discovering. And then just like before, allow the knees to come in. If the body's craving it, you can squeeze the thighs into the midsection and then start to squeeze the midsection back into the thighs. And notice how the head just lifts, but there's no strain. And then release that down and try that a couple of times, just noticing the compression between thighs and core and how the shoulders and the neck can stay quite relaxed even as you lift. And if you want to sync that with your breath, it can be an inhale or an exhale. Maybe try one of each and see which is the most interesting for you. And then release the head down. See if you can tuck the chin a little bit, creating length through the back of the neck. Open your arms to T. I like palms face up, but you can do whatever's comfortable in your shoulders. And anchor your pelvis, anchor your sacrum, and start to circle the knees. And notice how with the sacrum anchored, the knee circles are quite small. You can't really move too much, but maybe you can feel how the legs are connected into the hip socket, into the deep core, maybe all the way into the rib cage and the shoulders. You can stay here with the small circles, or you can allow the circles to start to get bigger, but if they get bigger, you have to move really slow so you keep that integration. The legs can start to extend any amount that feels good. And let this be a three-dimensional exploration of the spine. So you're starting to feel a little bit of rotation through the spine, maybe a little bit of massage on the sides of the spine. Before it was more just like front and back. Oh, that's a nice idea. You can do this one leg at a time if you place the sole of one foot down. So just take a moment to allow the legs to move freely. Sometimes when the core is really awake, it can be fun to reach the hands like they are for bridge and play with circling and lifting the hips and getting massage higher up in the spine. But only if there's no strain, only if there's a craving for that. And then grab behind your thighs. And we're rolling up to seated, so if it doesn't feel good to rock and roll, you can just come all the way up. But if it does feel good, take a few rolls and then challenge yourself to go hands free. And when we go hands free, the core has to do the work. You might notice that you roll a little asymmetrically. See if you can balance it out. See if you can find a hover point at the top and then let it go. And just play with this. And maybe the back and forth gets boring and you're curious about rolling up and to the right a little bit, or rolling up and to the left, or rolling up and forward. Or doing a backwards roll through the door. If anyone can do it, it's you, James. I believe in you. The next time you come up, pause there. If it feels tight in your hip flexors, press the heels down and try to get a little more awareness into the hamstrings. If it feels good to hover, you can play with rocking the weight from side to side, trying to stay relaxed and supple through the spine. And then bring the soles of the feet together. Support the outside of the legs with the hands, and then let the legs start to get heavy into the arms, but without letting them just drop down. And then gently press the hands into the legs, and notice how you can use that work to sit up a little taller, like it wakes up your shoulders a little bit. Try circling one shoulder back at a time. Notice how the shoulder blades interact with the spine. And we're going to meet in tabletop, and my favorite way to get there is to cross my right leg in front of my left hand behind, push down into the left hand, and flip into table. I know everyone's facing away from me, so we can all be like Malasada, and we can turn on all fours so that you're facing me once again. Beautiful. Let's grab our blanket and place it underneath the knees. Does anybody have sensitive wrists where being in tabletop is uncomfortable? Give me a wave. Okay, Roseanne, do the block trick that I showed you of having the hands up on the block. Anybody else? I just want to... Okay, cool. I don't think we'll be here too long. Jatila, was that a wave from you? Are you good? Okay, awesome. So from tabletop, we're going to be exploring our spines once again. And it's going to be a little bit harder because you can't feel the floor against the spine, right? So imagine the air around you like a blanket that's covering your back. Imagine you can feel the air rippling along the spine. Take a moment to feel the breath, and then we'll start to play with finding our neutral pelvis, just like we did on our back, right? So let the pelvis rock forward, let the pelvis rock back. Try to move slow and small, and try to feel how the movement of the pelvis affects the spine. And try to localize the movement more at the low back. And yeah, Davey, you're doing beautifully. I'm just here so that the people online can see that. So thank you for letting me use you as an example. We already get a lot of rounding in the upper spine, so we don't need this, right? What we really want to start to feel is how we can play with the vertebra at the bottom of the spine. So as you rock the pelvis forward and back, try to limit the movement. Is it okay if I place my hand on your back? Try to limit the movement to the low back and notice what wakes up there. And I know I can't go around and put my hand on everyone's low back, but imagine I can magically transport to your home. Imagine that you can feel my hand on your low back, and that just might help you have a different kind of awareness there. Or anyone that you really love, they could have their hand on your low back. And then let the movement, again, get smaller and smaller till you find what you think is neutral. And it's okay if it's not. We're just building awareness. You're not going to get hurt. It's just an exploration. Everybody that I can see looks great. And so from this neutral, start to pay attention to your exhale and notice how the front edge of the body can start to suck in to support the front of the spine. And it's not about looking skinny, that doesn't matter. It's just about creating support. So any cue I give is to feel support, and I don't want it to be misunderstood for any other purpose. And see if you can keep, this is called abdominal retraction. See if you can keep the abdominals retracted as you start to round the bottom of the spine. So just like a tiny cat pose only for the lumbar vertebra. And try to feel the tissues that are supporting the front of the spine. So that's the area of the spine facing your yoga mat. Can you feel that? Can you feel that support? And it's sort of like a gentle, very deep crunch. If anyone doesn't feel it, you can come talk to me and ask me, give me a wave. And so keep playing with that, but once you start, it's kind of like a suction, but in a gentle way. Try to maintain that as you tip your pelvis forward to neutral, right? And sometimes I have to bring my hand to my belly because I'm like, are my abdominals retracted? I can't even feel it all the time. And so use your own hand as feedback. And then if you lose it, just come back into the cat, try to retract the abdominals there. And again, it's very, very gentle. And then slowly tip the pelvis forward. Nothing in the spine should change. When I'm doing it right, I start to feel a lot of support in my pelvic floor and at the back of my sits bones. And then start to play with circling the hips as if there was a big circle underneath you that you were tracing. And just notice the sensation in the back of the hips and the side of the hips. And if you lose the abdominal retraction, come back to center, round the bottom of the spine, find it, find your neutral, and then start to challenge it by exploring. Imagine you can feel something new in your body, almost like turning a light on in a room in your house that you didn't even know was there. That happens in dreams, right? You're like, this room is so cool. How did I never know that it existed? That exists in your body too, in waking life. Okay. And so let's come back into that cat pose where you feel the abdominal retraction. And we're going to practice sending the hips back a little bit. Come onto the fingertips, so you might feel how that's a little more challenging for the core. And then push your hips forward to roll up one vertebra at a time, trying to feel that abdominal retraction supporting the front of the spine so there's no compression, there's no pressure on the IV discs. And then float the arms up to the horizon. If it feels good, you can push the knees down into the earth and let the front of the body gently open. The arms can follow. I find it most comfortable to let my arms float open to the side instead of back. And we're going to repeat that again, but without placing our hands down on the ground. So the hands will just hover above the ground. Try to find that cat pose with the bottom of the spine. And then slowly roll up. And we're going to repeat this a few times, and each time I want you to try to move lighter and lighter, like it takes less energy. And see if you can start to feel each vertebra as if my little fingers were walking up your spine and saying like, okay, now this one, now this one, now this one. And take one more. And just to add in a little bit of psoas strengthening and hopefully some psoas release, let's find our neutral pelvis at the top, so no spinal extension now. Hands in the hip creases, and then just start to rock back just a little bit. And notice if the area underneath your fingertips just brightens a little bit. It shouldn't feel hard or like any pressure in your low back. There should be no pain, and just float forward and back a couple of times. Try to feel even pressure in the tops of the feet and the shins. Usually we have one psoas that's stronger, and that one tries to do all the work, but we're trying to be fair here. And each time you rock back, see if you can become aware of what your sacrum is doing. As the psoas ignites is too strong of a word, but that's the word that came to mind. It should help the low back come into balance. The low back's connected to the sacrum, it's connected to the pelvis. So just notice how that complex might be shifting slightly. And then we're gonna make our way to standing. I wanna take everyone through down dog. If that's not a comfortable position for you, just meet me at standing. If you like down dog, then we can do it together. Walk the hands in front of you, tuck the toes under, shoulders underneath the wrists, and the knees should be a little bit behind the hips, so it's kind of like a plank pose, but the knees are down. With an exhale, hover. Actually, first find your neutral pelvis that we've been working on. See if you can find abdominal retraction here, and then exhale to hover the knees. It probably feels easier if you found the abdominal retraction first. Press into the hands to send the hips up and back. Bend the knees deeply so the belly reaches towards the thighs. See if you can still find neutral pelvis and spine. We often want to go into extension here. And then slow motion, imagine your legs like little inflatable rafts. Let them slowly fill and open without putting any pressure in the low back. They don't have to straighten if it feels good. Little wag of the tail will transfer the lengthening across all of the erector spinae group and all 3.5 hamstrings. You can lift one heel a little bit more as you sway. Try to keep equal weight in hands and feet so you don't dump into your shoulders. And then as the hips sway, start to notice as they go to the right how the left hand can drag in a little bit. And then sway your hips to the left and bring your right hand in a little bit. And slowly walk the hands towards the feet. Deep bend in the knees so there's no strain here. See if you can keep retracting your abdominals without tension, natural breath. And then we'll meet in Uttanasana, our standing forward fold. Hands can be on the thighs, they can be on the shins, the floor, whatever feels best for you. Take a couple of breaths here. And then anchor the big toes, rock weight back into the heels, and imagine the hamstrings almost like catching the base of the pelvis. Rock forward and back a few times, and see if each time you rock back and feel the heels plug in, if you can get more awareness through the back of the body. My knees are really deeply bent here to help my legs, the muscles in my legs support me. The next time the weight rocks back, push the feet into the floor, send the hips forward to slowly roll up. We'll spend more time with that later, but first I want to get to some of our standing stuff. Just like we did in the roll up from kneeling, the hands can circle up and then they can circle wherever they want. I've really been enjoying just going wide so there's less pressure in my shoulder joints. And then let's do that again in a smaller way. So bend the knees, hands on the thighs, just like our cat pose before. Round the spine, just cat for the low back. Feel the abdominals retract. And then press the hips forward to slowly roll up, but this time truly one vertebra at a time. It's less taxing when you're higher up. Hands can float to the horizon or they can go up and circle, really whatever feels best for you. And then we'll repeat by bending the knees, hands to thighs, push the hands down and find that cat action with the low spine and the abdominal retraction. And then pelvis forward, roll up from the bottom up. You can even bring your hands to your spine if it helps you actually try to feel each vertebra. And At any time, you can go to the next track and then meet me back here because we're going to do this a few more times. So we did this with our back touching the floor. We did this from kneeling. And now we're doing this standing. Notice if pressing down into the big toes helps you brighten the core and get a little bit more awareness through each vertebra. We'll do one more. Nice, Yukie. Great, Roseanne and Patty. Way to go, Jamie. All right, let's just bring hands to heart center for a moment. You can close the eyes or gaze at a single point and take a moment, just like we did in Shavasana in the beginning of class, to let everything go. Notice if that's easier in this moment. See if you can feel your breath. Maybe you can even feel your heartbeat. If you did set an intention, just stoke that intention at the heart center. Okay, so for our standing sequence, grab your blocks and place them ahead of you. I am going to face you so I can see you. If the idea of stepping off your mat would make you feel a little funny, you can go sideways. If you don't mind, then please face me. If you need extra help waking up your core or having awareness of your feet, standing on an open blanket can just help stimulate the nerve endings in the feet, so you're welcome to try that. You don't have to, though. Okay, so begin by pressing into one foot and allowing the body to rotate slightly away from that foot. And then press down into the other foot and notice how the body rotates the other way. And then do it gentler and gentler so you're not overdoing it. As you do this, you might notice, oh, my feet naturally want to step a little wider, or maybe not, but that's what I was noticing. And then let the arms start to swing. So as you rotate, the back arm naturally swings. If it feels okay, I like bending my knees through center. It makes it a little more dramatic as I rotate and the arm swings. And then we're going to add on here. So let's stay all rotating to the left. Take a few rotations in the same direction so that pattern becomes more and more familiar. And then the next time the weight is in the right leg, take a little step forward with the left, but do that same rotation. And then bounce back. And do that a few times. So it's the same action of pushing into one leg, twisting and rotating, but now we're taking another leg with us. And start to notice how when the left leg steps forward, hopefully you can feel just a gentle opening through the whole outside of the left leg, all the way up into the left hip, and then the left side of the body. The next time the foot steps forward, pause there. I just kind of want to look around and see where people land. Nice. Great. Make sure you feel supported in the pelvis. The feet are probably nice and wide. Back toes are mostly forward. You can move the front foot forward a little, in a little, out a little, whatever feels best for your hips. Press down into especially the big toes and the outer edges of the feet. And as you, well, let's actually first find a neutral pelvis. So play with those pelvic tilts that we've been doing. And just make sure the joints feel okay as the pelvis moves. It should feel really gentle. And then as you find neutral, gently bend into the front knee, relax the arms down, and exhale to hover the arms towards the horizon. And then release the arms down and just take a couple of those on your own, noticing what brightens in the deep core. Ooh, nice, Sanjay. That's advanced. If you want to pulse here, you can straighten the front leg as the arms release, and then bend the knee as the arms float, and try to feel the whole body working as one. And the next time the knee bends and the arms hover, pause there and bring your hands to your hips. Start to push into the back foot to tip forward. The hands can rest on the thigh, or if your blocks don't feel far away, your hands can rest on the blocks. But if that feels like a big stretch or strain, just keep your hands on your thigh instead. You can also place your hands on a wall or a chair for more support. Let's find the cat rounding of the spine that we've been playing with, and then the abdominal retraction, and then press your hips forward, roll up one vertebra at a time, hands float to the horizon, and then option to let them go all the way up, and then the gentle circle. And we'll repeat this a few times, releasing forward, finding the cat spine and abdominal retraction, and then pushing the hips forward to roll up. And each time, see if you can feel a new vertebra helping with this movement. So the rounding is coming from all 25 vertebrae, and then the extension in Virabhadrasana 1 is coming from all 25. And the next time you roll up, pause there, and gently start to push into the back foot. Let the hips sway slightly to the right and allow the spine to side bend to the left. And this is just adding on the top of the psoas, the part that's connected to the lumbar vertebra. Inhale, drop the left arm down, and then exhale, slow motion to hover the arm. See if you can feel that condensing in the deep core. Take a couple of pulses here. Each time, see if you can feel this connecting lower down into the body until you feel this action relate to the outside of the right foot. And then we'll put all of that together. So the next time the arm comes up, bend the knee, release forward, find your cat spine, roll up into Vira 1, side bend, arm float. And if one of those movements feels really valuable to you and you want to stay there, or maybe you're inspired to add something on, please be my guest. Subtract something. Really, I'm just trying to help you explore. So if you discover something different, mission accomplished. And the next time you come up from the arm float, pause there. Look at your front foot. Imagine it really strong and stable. Start to shift the weight into the front heel. And then you might need to move your blocks out of the way. Shift the weight into the foot and let the back leg swing forward and back. Just like we've been practicing with our pelvis, in other movements, try to find a neutral pelvis even as the leg swings. The leg is going to try to pull the pelvis out of neutral. And so if you can hold your pelvis neutral here, your deep core is going to strengthen. Eventually, we're going to let that leg swing back, and we're going to repeat the sequence again. So when you feel ready for that, let the right leg swing back, and we'll float into Vira 1, and then melt down. Roll up, side bend, arm float. And one last time, and it's up to you if you want to come into the leg swing, if you want to pause and hold something, or just repeat the whole sequence, stepping the leg back, adding on a Krishna pose. I love it. I know. Happy accident, as Bob Ross would say, right? And remember, we're just exploring each of our vertebrae, so if that gives you a focal point of where to feel and what to notice. And the next time you step forward to the leg swing, you can set the right foot down, pause, feel equal weight in both feet, close the eyes if that feels comfortable. And then we'll prepare for the second side. So walk backward on your mat. You'll set the blocks up if you use them, as you did on the other side, but now they'll be slightly over to the left. And so we'll start by pressing into one leg and taking our little rotation, pressing into the other leg and rotating. Anchor the big toes here. Make sure the rotation's not coming from the knees. You want it to feel even all the way from the feet up to the crown of the head. So it's just a little bit at each vertebra, a little bit in the ankle, a little bit in the hip. And then as you start to rotate to the right, let's repeat that a few times, just to the right. And then you'll start to take the right foot forward as you repeat it. Letting the right knee bend, letting the left arm swing, and just feeling that all happening together. And then think about stepping the foot more forward than out to the side, just like you were taking a big step up the side of a mountain or something. And the next time the foot steps forward, pause there. Equal weight in both feet. Make sure the pelvis feels supported. Anchor the big toes. Take a few pelvic tilts to find your neutral pelvis. The front leg can be slightly bent or straight, whatever feels best for you. And then let's all gently bend into the front knee and exhale to hover the arms to the horizon. And take a few of these, just noticing what changes in your body. And going just to the horizon will challenge the deep core more than lifting higher, but if that feels good, you can totally do whatever. And the next time the arms lift, pause there and then press into the feet, letting the whole front of the body open. And then we'll gently start to tip the pelvis forward, bringing the hands to the thigh or to the blocks. Find the cat rounding of the low spine, abdominal retraction, and then press into the feet to slowly roll up, trying to explore each individual vertebra. You can always use your fingertips if you need help. And then hands can go into that nice wide circle. And then all the way back down to whatever feels supported to you. Cat spine. Roll up and try to feel how the abdominals are supporting the front of the spine, getting a little bit more articulation each repetition. As I do this spinal work, my lung capacity has expanded like so dramatically. So imagine you're waking up the back of your rib cage, the back of your lungs. You can breathe more fully without trying, just happens. And the next time you come up, we'll add on our psoas action. So press into the back foot, let the whole left side lengthen, little sway over to the right. Equal weight in both feet, drop the right arm, and then as you exhale, hover the arm. And notice how that hovering can help you feel connected all the way down into the feet. Make sure the low back feels comfortable here. You might notice the arm hover helps you find more of a neutral pelvis. And the next time the arm lifts, we'll put that all together so you can release forward, cat round, roll up, Psoas. We'll take a couple on your own, and then we'll add on the leg swing. So if you love that and you can't wait for it, you can go there sooner. And the next time you float up from the side bend, I invite you to find a drishti, shift the weight, kick over your blocks. Just kidding, but they're right there. And let the legs, left leg swing this time. And if you find a neutral pelvis as the leg swings, you might notice a lot more awareness of the spine, especially the muscles on the front of the spine. Notice how the arms can swing opposite the leg. And then start to visualize yourself swinging that leg back so you can go into your warrior one. And when it feels right, you can go for it. And then we'll do that whole thing, adding or subtracting anything that you want. And so from Vira 1, we release forward cat spine, modified Parsvottanasana. And then press the hips forward and be curious as you roll up. Can you feel more? Can you get more articulation through the spine? And then don't forget the leg swing unless you don't want to do it. Then forget it. The blocks really get in the way. I got to think that one through. And maybe each time the leg swings back into Vira 1, you notice that you naturally have a longer stride because the psoas is starting to open. Or maybe not. No judgment, but just pay attention. And the next time the arm floats up, you can either take one more leg swing or just step forward and pause. Equal weight in both feet. And let all the dust of the mind settle down into the feet and then be absorbed by the earth. Take a couple of breaths here. And then because we did so much psoas work, I do want to go for a little walk. So just around your space, just for about a minute. Let yourself walk and let the arms swing and notice your leg swing. Notice the stability of your pelvis. Notice any awareness you have of your vertebra. Can you watch yourself walk without trying to change? You don't have to walk slow, you just have to walk consciously. Try pushing off a little extra into the back big toe and notice what that does for the leg and the hip and the swinging arms. And then you can make your way back to your mat. And grab your blocks. Place one at the highest height, or if you need a bigger base, you can place both at the highest height. We'll come through Malasana, and you can remove the blocks should you choose to, but it's nice to first have this landing point. So feet nice and wide, turned out just a little bit, whatever feels comfortable with your hip sockets. Anchor the big toes. Rock the weight forward and back like we did before. And then as the weight rocks back, let the hips start to reach back. I'll go to the side. And then press up. And take a few of these, and each one, imagine the back of the legs almost like a rubber band, where you stretch it and then release it. And it doesn't matter what the arms do. It can be whatever feels best to you. I'm enjoying squatting back and bringing my hands into prayer, and then almost like ski jumping up. And then if it feels within range to lower the hips towards the blocks, you can go for that. If that's not happening, you can come all the way down and place the hips onto the floor with the legs in front of you. If that feels really, actually pause on the blocks at first, and then you can have the option later to move them. Take a moment just to feel the sits bones on the blocks. And try to find neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Imagine breathing across each of your vertebra. And then start to rotate the weight around the sits bones, massaging the base of the pelvis. And then just notice the muscles supporting the base of the pelvis, the base of the spine. I notice when I do this, more support wakes up. There's like a brightness that happens in my glutes, but it's really gentle. Try going the other way. And then if this feels really supported and you want to try it without the blocks, you're welcome to move them off to the side and take a moment just letting that sling support the pelvis, and then eventually bringing the pelvis all the way down. You can move the blocks off to the side and continue to face me, but I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see this better. Bend the knees so it's easy to have the heels touch the ground, and just gently point and flex the feet a couple of times really slowly, and notice how the whole body responds. You might lean forward and back a little bit. I find that my body actually mirrors what my feet are doing. I don't know if that happens to anyone else. And the next time, what's that? Oh, and the next time you lean forward, pause there, and this is like the cat part of the spine. Place the hands to the floor. Start to round just the low back. You might actually have to come up a little. You might have noticed like, oh, I'm actually rounding a lot here. That's where we all round. Try to come up. Feel it at the low back. Feel the abdominal retraction. And then drive the heels forward without moving them. So they plant in place, but you kick them forward and try to roll up one vertebra at a time, like we've practiced so many times. And then let the legs go out just a little bit. This time, drag the heels forward and notice how the spine elongates and you get lighter, drag the heels towards the sits bones. And just note, how it activates the back of the body, and you sit up. Use that strength to tip forward, keeping the spine neutral, and then kick into the legs just like you did, rolling up, and the hands follow in that big circle we've been practicing. So heels drag, body tips forward, heels kick, body rolls up. And see if you can start to feel each of your vertebrae participating in this, which means you'll have to move slower. And as you roll up, see if you can feel the support underneath the sits bones that we woke up on those blocks in Malasana. And if this is feeling smooth and the body can figure out all of this, you can add on one more element. As you tip forward, you can allow the knees to fall open. So a little bit of external rotation. And then as you kick into the heels, the legs center themselves again. And it's not about how far you go, it's about feeling the arms and legs connected to the core. Each vertebra moving and articulating. And if at any point you would like to pause, you can. You can breathe, you can sway a little bit. And notice how even in stillness, how you might have more awareness of your spine. Notice, oh, nice adjustment. As you breathe, you might be able to feel the front space of the spine. And then let's roll up eventually and pause either at neutral, or if this is not comfortable, you can find a neutral spine by leaning back a little bit. And then we can start to prepare for Shavasana. So you can pause the music, grab any accoutrement that would make your Shavasana more comfortable. If you're on the mainland, you can dim your lights. You can put something warm on maybe. I love to roll up my blanket for underneath the backs of my knees. I know we didn't get to the strap, so you can use the strap as an eye pillow.
We got some of it.
Online. And then if you're already laying down, that's great. If you're not, you can enjoy this last moment to play with melting one vertebra at a time down. And it actually takes so much support from the front of the spine, the deep abdominals, the deep core. And then as you land, you're welcome to make any adjustments that help you feel spacious and supported. Maybe you notice that you just land just right from all the work that you've already done. If the body is craving any movements or counter poses, take your time, enjoy the signals that your body's sharing with you. And then eventually let the body go. You've done that layer of work. It's taken care of. And notice if it's easier to dive into your breath. We've been moving slowly and consciously for over an hour, and really shifts the mind. And whatever happens in Shavasana is perfect. But if you can stay conscious, there is a special nourishment. And so I welcome you to just observe the breath flowing into the heart, and then the heart relaxing and expanding. And we'll rest here for the next 10 minutes. yourself just be. Begin to witness your breath. Imagine it traveling all the way through each cell in the body, all the way to the fingertips and bottom of the feet. As you feel ready, you can make any gentle movements that feel inviting to the body. Imagine giving yourself a fresh start, like you could leave behind any mental or physical pattern and have a completely new perspective. Maybe physical discomfort could be completely left behind as you eventually make your way to seated, and you don't need to rush. I invite you to take the scenic route, enjoy the path. And when you do eventually make it to seated, we'll be preparing to meditate for just over 10 minutes. So if anyone here needs to go into the shrine to grab a cushion or a chair, you're welcome to do that. And online folks, you can grab whatever is comfortable for your meditation seat. And if you do have to stand up and move around, see if you can watch yourself as you travel through space. We can use some of the support that we've woken up in class to help us feel really good in our meditation seat. So I welcome you to try rocking forward on your sits bones, finding a neutral pelvis and spine, and then slowly starting to rock back on the sits bones, and just notice if that support travels all the way up the spine. If you are curious, you're welcome to do that a couple of times. For me, it helps when I'm forward to actually rock my pelvis back first, kind of like that cat arch of the spine. Sits bones connect, and then the rest of the spine follows. And then once you're there, if you need a little extra support in the pelvis, just those little circles that we did on the blocks can help harness that. And take your time with any of those exercises. If it helps to repeat them, please give yourself that gift. Will make sitting more pleasant. And eventually, when it's time for you to find stillness, just enjoy that process of releasing the physical body, just like we did in Shavasana. And letting the awareness drop into core of the heart. And try to take that step back into that observer space where you can observe the heart and the way the breath interacts with the heart without manipulating it or changing it. With our physical postures today, we repeated things many times. And hopefully each time they felt smoother or clearer or more supportive. And now we do the same thing with our breath, just continually bringing the breath into the heart and releasing the breath and letting the heart expand. And each time you repeat this, notice if you can feel it more truly. Letting that energetic pathway become clearer. keep it. And to help bring us back into this dimension, let's do 3 ohms together. And we'll just begin by taking a full breath in and out, letting the lungs fill and empty. And then take another full breath to chant. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Namaste. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Anybody feel something new in their spine? More aware? Cool. Yes. Woohoo. Enjoy your awakened spine for the rest of the day and beyond. See you soon. Aloha.